Welcome to Jefferson Liberty Radio, the voice of the state of Jefferson in the Central Valley. I am Matthew, joined as always by Pat. Before we get started with this week's episode, I wanted to tell you about our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Al Certified Safe and Lock. Al offers locksmithing services and alarm systems for a range of applications, including burglary, fire, tamper, medical emergencies, and much more. Al's has been locally owned and managed in Modesto for nearly 70 years, and with thousands of loyal and satisfied customers, you can be sure Al's will not only meet but exceed your needs. For more information, call 1-800-700-4780 or go to alsalarm.com. That's ALSALARM.com. Thank you so much to Al Certified Safe and Lock for sponsoring our show. And now on to our interview for this week.
Well, welcome, fellow Jeffersonians, to Jefferson Liberty Radio. Tonight we have Linda Paine, and she is the president of EIP California, which is Election Integrity Project in California. Welcome, Linda.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And I'm Pat, and my co-host is John.
Good evening.
Well, thank you, Linda. I just want to welcome you one more time, and thanks for giving us this opportunity to talk to you and learn about election integrity. And we couldn't have a more important topic. We all want our elections to be run lawfully and have integrity. How about that? So
I would surely agree with you there.
Okay. We'll just jump in here with our first question then. What is Election Integrity of California? Can you?
Well, Election Integrity Project is an independent, nonpartisan, public interest 501c3. It's kind of a mouthful. We are a citizen-based organization committed to protecting the integrity of the election process. We began in 2010, December 2010. We actually filed as a for-profit company at the time because the IRS was not really favoring our types of organizations to give the nonprofit status. But in 2017, we filed as the nonprofit EIPCA. We just added California to the for-profit name. But we continue to do the same work, is researching and documenting exactly what is going on with California's elections, all the way from the researching of the voter rolls, county by county and statewide, to the actual running of the election process during what we now call an election season, because we no longer have just a one day for elections.
Yes, it is a season, isn't it? We get really tired of those seasons sometimes. That's for sure.
Seems to go on forever, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
How did you personally become involved with the Election Integrity Project?
Can you hear him? Linda, did you hear that?
Well, I was part of the, I can, yes.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
Thank you. I got involved in 2010, actually back in 2009 when the Tea Party movement began. I was among the many who were shocked by some of these bills in Congress, especially TARP. But I got on the American Family Association to sign up to say, hey, I'll help with a Tea Party group in my community. And within 5 minutes, it said, hey, there's a new Tea Party group in Santa Clarita, and Linda Paine is your contact information person. So there was quite by accident. But anyway, many citizens in Santa Clarita got started. In our first rally, we had 1,700 people who came out.
Fantastic.
To protest what was happening. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So that's how it began.
Nice.
And we began networking with other Tea Party groups and other citizen groups, not just Tea Party, but the Second Amendment and parental rights, property rights, you name it. But we many of us had never been involved in politics at all. Me among them. I was a teacher. And one thing led to the other. The more we learned, the more stunned we were, to where we got to point where we learned that the water was turned off to our farmlands. And by that time, we said, what in the world is going on in California? And why do we not know about it in the southern counties? So we began meeting, 10 of the southern counties began meeting every other week in Pasadena. And we formed what's called the SoCal Liberty Coalition. And it was from that coalition's continual meeting and comparing our counties with what happened in the Central Valley, with what the rural parts of those counties, where we realized something did not seem right. And we decided to go to the polls for the first time in 2010 and sort of have a look-see. We had no idea how our elections actually ran. And we just assumed that everything was good. So
we can't assume anymore.
We were so shocked. No, we can't, even back then. But we were shocked enough at what we saw that we contacted an election law attorney and explained what we had seen and our concerns. And her answer was they knew there was fraud and corruption, but the parties could not get involved and the candidates could not get involved because it would be considered partisan. So to fix it, it would have to be a citizen organized effort, and it would have to be nonpartisan and have the highest level of integrity. And so we decided that time is the same old question: if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? And we decided to figure out what was going on and do something about it.
Wow, very, very commendable. Doing something, and you gladly took on that job. I'm very grateful that you took that job on. That's for sure. Linda, there is a current lawsuit that you have going on right now with Judicial Watch, and what does that lawsuit? Can you talk about that or not? Mm-hmm. Okay,
we can. We actually won that lawsuit. The lawsuit was filed in August of 2017, and we signed the agreement to complete the lawsuit January 4th. And basically, we had been documenting California's noncompliance with the Federal National Voter Registration Act requirements to maintain accurate voter rolls. We had provided that information for 6 years at the time we filed the lawsuit to registrars and DAs and legislators, I mean, you name it, and nothing was done about it. So we started to make our research papers public, and Judicial Watch contacted us. The long and the short of it is we became the main plaintiff in the Judicial Watch lawsuit because though they knew that there were issues in California's data, they had no proof. And once we made our research public, they contacted us and realized we actually did have the proof. So by having a main plaintiff with documented evidence, we took what they told us was the strongest NVRA case in the country forward, and we sued the Secretary of State, Alex Padilla, and the LA County Registrar of Voters, Dean Logan, to force them really to clean up their voter rolls and to follow federal law. So the case was so strong that it didn't even have to go to a court. It was a California judge who determined that the evidence that we brought forward was strong enough and accepted that the attorneys for Mr. Padilla and Mr. Logan agreed to clean up the voter rolls. And that was a huge win because it had never been done in the state of California, where a citizen group sued and won, forcing the compliance with federal law.
And so you just answered my question, because I was going to ask what court that lawsuit was filed, and you said it didn't even go to court. That is amazing. That is amazing.
Right. It was filed in a federal court, and I believe it was the Southern Division.
Okay.
And at the time, as of April 27th, 2018, LA County alone had 1,565,000 inactive registrants on their inactive file of registered voters. So statewide, we were looking at 3 to 4 million people on the voter rolls that would be considered inactive and could be easily activated by someone simply sending a vote-by-mail ballot to that name to a post office box, and then someone harvesting it and voting it.
Wow.
And that's why we press so hard to get it cleaned up.
You know, every time I talk to we've also had Colleen Britton on before, and you know, my jaw just drops all this information that you give us, and we're going, I just can't believe that. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. Well, and that's what motivated us to keep going, because we thought the same thing: is how can this possibly be?
How can? Yeah, really, really.
Has the Election Integrity Project filed or thought about filing any additional lawsuits?
Well, we actually filed our very first lawsuit in 2013. We retained J. Christian Adams in 2011 he is a federal election law attorney, and we retained him to sort of help us learn how to do this. And by 2013, we had already documented that California was then not compliant, not only with the the National Voter Registration Act, but they were not compliant with the Help America Vote Act requirement to have what's called a top-down statewide database. And why that's significant in a state as large as California is without a top-down system, someone can register to vote in any county, but that county would have no way of knowing if that person were also registered in additional counties, because at that time, the statewide database was built by the county sending in a report of what they had on their voter rolls. So, but we couldn't get the funding to take that case forward, not by the party, not by raising enough funds, and so it simply became a white paper on our website, and it's called "The Doors Are Wide Open." But we continued to push forward anyway. We do have multiple lawsuits lined up that we're now raising money and working with a brand new public interest law firm that's being built to help take those lawsuits forward. We've learned in 8 years that if we can't get a law firm to take the case, we really have nothing, even though we have everything. We are a research organization, so we document the evidence. We document it in a way that it is court ready. But if a law firm doesn't take the case, then here it sits on a shelf gathering dust.
Oh.
Right.
So since winning this suit, we have interested lawyers now.
Wow.
So are we still just underneath all 58, 59 counties, or do we have a top-down system now?
We do have a top-down system that was just certified, but our research indicates there are still some issues with the top-down system that we're concerned about. So we'll continue to provide our research to attorneys. But the important thing with this case that we just won, the reason it is also historic, is that the judge did not close the case to the federal court. And in fact, in order to ensure that that there's accountability, that they're going to allow us to do the research. The registrar of voters and the LA County registrar and the Secretary of State must provide reports to Judicial Watch, our attorneys, who will provide the reports to us. We will have already begun running the data and being prepared to see if they're actually following the requirement to clean up the voter rolls. And if they're not, we don't have to file a second lawsuit. We can go right back to the courts, which is really unusual because it still is a federal level court. Normally, an agreement, it's called a settlement agreement, it would go through the California courts. But again, the issue was so bad, our research showed that California had not cleaned up their voter rolls for 20 years.
20
and so
years.
That's why the numbers were so huge. And that's why the courts are allowing for EIPCA to be included in the oversight and verification of the cleanup.
Okay. That's it. 20 years. That's just boggles my mind. So I got something off your website. Under the terms of the settlement, Mr. Padilla and Mr. Logan are required to make regular reports for their corrective actions and results. Can you tell us have they been complying with that, or are they doing that, and how they're doing that?
Well, the first thing that they did do is they updated their California NVRA manual, which had the word may instead of must in the requirement to clean up the voter rolls. So what used to be there was counties may clean up, or may remove the inactives. And so since the wording was may, then of course they chose not to. What's changed now is that they must clean up the voter rolls. They must begin to send out the letters to those who have not voted in over 2 general elections. And we have some people who've been active for over 20 years. So those people must begin to get removed from the voter rolls, and letters that postcards have to now be sent out to verify, do they still exist? Have they passed away? Did they move? That kind of thing. So that's already in process. But the important part of that is we have seen over the years that the registrars of voters, not all of them, but especially LA, and oftentimes the Secretary of State, sort of pushes the ball down the road. They never quite get around to doing what they say they're going to do. So this has allowed us to already start to run the data. And so we already have a list of who were on the inactive list from our research in March and in October. And now we just bought the data now. And so we will be able to see if, in fact, they did send out those cards and if they're starting to remove those who've been inactive, especially those 20 years.
Okay, so there will be some evidence of them correcting this. Mm-hmm. So that's that. Did you say yes? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Is there a time that's good to know? Is there any kind of a time frame for them to correct this at all, or do they're obviously, like you said, they push the ball down the road? There's no time for
right. In fact, the first time period just came. The first is at LA County, and when it's not only LA County, but this requires Mr. Padilla to do the same thing that LA County is required to do. The focus was LA County because it's so huge. LA County is larger than 41 of our other states. So everything that must be done for LA County must be done in every county. But LA County must make an effort to determine which of the inactive registrations must be canceled by February 4th. So that date has come. And so what they needed to have done by that date is determine those names. We've estimated they are about 400,000 of them who should be canceled by February 4th because they're inactive longer than just the 2 inactive or not voting in 2 general elections.
Okay.
And then the next date is today. It's February 18th.
How about that?
So all of the registrants in LA County have to be sent. It's a postcard, it's a Section 8 postcard, in which they have to respond and say, "Yep, I'm still here. I just haven't voted in 2 general elections." If they don't respond to the card that was sent out today, then they have to be removed. And we've estimated that could be another 400,000 in LA County alone.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow, or more, depending on. I expect if they've been off the rolls for very long that they'd be picking up a postcard and responding.
Right.
So, getting back to the compliance, you said since it was basically a settlement with the 2 departments, the LA County and the state of California. So if and when they should violate compliance, then the federal judge can just pick the case up and make a decision, or?
Well, we then can take the case forward. We work with our attorneys, and I actually asked our attorneys, well, what happens if we find that they're not compliant when we've done the research and we're showing that they're not actually removing the inactives? And he said, because this actually rolls into contractual law, so it's not only just election law. They have signed a contract with Judicial Watch and we, as the main plaintiffs, the IPCA, to actually follow the federal mandate. And so if they don't do it, they're not only not in compliance with the election laws, they now have broken contract law. And that moves them into a whole different court that they don't want to be in. And our attorneys are going to hit them hard if they're not complying with contractual law, which is really good because it's going to take that to motivate them to do what they should have been doing all along.
Yeah. So that this forces them into compliance, and that would probably make that is what would make voter fraud more difficult. And is there anything else that would make voter fraud more difficult to do?
Well, there's several things that will make it more difficult. That's one of them, because all of those inactives can, in fact, be activated so easily just by having someone. I mean, it's so easy to get the names of the inactive. Anyone who qualifies to get the voter rolls because they're a candidate or political party can actually see what the vote history is. They can tell if someone is a low propensity voter, meaning they haven't voted in years. So we're concerned about the ballot harvesting that occurred in California. Now, we're concerned that that many of the inactives may have been activated all of a sudden, and that's what we're running our data now to look for that, to see if there were names on the inactive list who didn't vote for 20 years or maybe were deceased. All of a sudden, they voted by mail. And so we're going to put together a report that will challenge some of that. The other thing we're extremely concerned about is we have a program. It's an observations program, and we had 1,000 people out in the polls in 2018 throughout the state, and especially the southern counties, the big counties, observing and documenting what was happening in the polls. And we received an incredibly large number. We're talking thousands of people who were either a vote-by-mail voter, and they did not get their vote-by-mail ballot this time. And then another huge number of people who went to the polls to vote and were told by the clerk there that they had been changed to vote by mail without their knowledge or permission. And they did not get a vote by mail ballot. And we want to know what happened to all those missing vote by mail ballots. We're concerned that they may have been intercepted and voted. And we're concerned about that because some of our observations teams documented that citizens went to vote because they didn't receive the vote by mail ballot, and were actually told by the clerk that they had, in fact, had their ballot received and it had already been processed. And
now you have something. Go ahead. Excuse me. Please continue.
Oh, no, that's fine. So the fact that we actually have citizens now indicating that they did not get a vote by mail ballot, and yet their vote history shows they either voted in person or they voted with a vote by mail ballot, tells us that there was illegal ballot harvesting taking place.
So now on your website, there is something called the Citizen Incident Statement I saw. Can you tell our listeners what, if they have had, or if they had some sort of issue when they went to go vote, what the Citizen Incident, I think that's very important.
It is, and we've received hundreds of them. We could really appreciate you asking that question, because we need to hear from citizens across the state, even in counties where we didn't have an observations team. But we would love to see how far and wide the issue went of citizens who were vote-by-mail voters, but they didn't get their vote-by-mail ballot, or they didn't change the vote-by-mail ballot themselves, but someone changed it for them. We do see a problem with the DMV, and that I think did some of it, but not all of it. So yes, they can go to the website, and we have a date on each one of them. We had huge problems in the primaries as well as the November election. And so if someone experienced an issue, even if they're not sure if it was legal or not, we would love for them to just download the appropriate one for the June primary or November, complete it, and there's an instruction PDF there that will tell them what to do. But just tell their story of what happened and mail it to our Seco Canyon office. We are compiling them and adding them to a huge spreadsheet, which is starting to help us identify where the issues happened, and that will add to our next step, which is an audit. We want to audit the voter the envelopes, the vote by mail ballot envelopes, with the provisional ballot envelopes and the sign-in sheets, to see how many vote by mail voters actually had someone vote their ballot, even though they didn't receive it. And the way we do it, one of them is to have people let us know through the incident report.
Good. I'm glad. And I want to just add that your site is very user-friendly. I mean, if I can get around
it,
it's very good. Yes. John?
Yeah, how can someone volunteer to help your organization? I mean, is there certain
There's
procedure?
several ways. Yeah, and we go right to the website. The website is really our hub of information. Our state is so big that it's difficult to reach everybody by speaking in person. So we're putting more and more presentations on the website. People can click on video or presentation to learn more, or they can sign up to help. So we have a volunteer tab, and they can click on that and fill it out, and then our director of volunteer management will contact them. They can also assist with donating if they'd like to, and there's a donate button there. And then the one thing we're really encouraging people to do is sign up to get our email. So those on the right hand of the website, you'll see that right there. We're continuing to try to educate as many citizens in the state as possible, and that's one way we can get it done, because our continued updates and information will go right to their inboxes.
Very good.
Yeah, you have quite a few videos on that will actually teach anybody a lot of that information, I've noticed, or I did know. We are the state of Jefferson. We are working really hard for this. I don't know that. Have you heard of the state of Jefferson?
Oh yeah, I know Mike and Patty very well, and we had several teams up there with State of Jefferson.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Forgive me for not knowing that. I didn't know that. So,
no problem.
On your site, you said there's much more to be done, and that the votes the vote count is undiluted by the casting of illegitimate votes. And I just took that from your website. Forgive me. But under our Citizens for Fair Representation lawsuit, we've sued the state of California for underrepresentation and dilution of vote. Can I ask you a personal question? I'm not asking you as the president of EIP. How do you feel about the dilution of vote in the state, especially by the large urban areas? We are up here in a less populated area, so we basically our votes are diluted, and so we kind of have to live with what the large urban areas vote for. How do you feel about the state of Jefferson and our push for better representation and our votes to count?
Well, I think it's critical, and not only speaking for myself, but even for EIPCA, our votes are in fact diluted. They're diluted even in the big southern counties, and that's because of the manipulation of our election process and the non-compliance with state and federal law, but the weakening of our laws. So not only is the southern counties impacted because we don't simply have enough representatives per the number of citizens in the state, but the continual using of the law by forcing us into regionalism and by establishing weaknesses in the law. We have areas in the southern counties, for instance, one polling location in 2012 had a 600% turnout.
Oh.
And the reason they had a 600% turnout is because of the weak laws. It was a polling location at a college, and we've identified three population groups that are very vulnerable to manipulation, and that is our senior citizens living in some kind of residential facility, or those who are mentally incapacitated. Again, they're dependent upon someone to assist them. College students who simply really are no longer being taught history and civics, and non-citizens, both legal and illegal, are easily manipulated to end up being on the voter rolls and voting with or without their knowledge, again, because of the broken system. The polling location where we first caught the dissolution of the vote was 2012 at Cal Poly Pomona, 600% turnout. And that's because students were told they could cross county lines and vote. They could register to vote in their classes. They could register same day, even though we didn't have same day at the time. But there are all kinds of issues. And so we began to follow that pattern throughout. And we have noted since we've been doing the research that students cross county lines to vote in various counties, which creates a very high number of ballots that are voted as a provisional vote. And so those illegitimate ballots, they they end up squashing the vote of the legitimate voter. So it is even much bigger than you realize. And the northern counties, of course, really, I think our northern counties, you all up north, are really impacted by the mess that is California. And so it's a state that is too large to govern well. And it's my opinion and the opinion of Election Integrity Project California that we want to see our reports go right to Congress. We want to have a town hall with the president and all the other states who have an oversight group. And we want to demand that the Department of Justice release our civil rights hearing. In 2015, we had so much evidence. You never heard about it,
No.
but we had a civil rights hearing. We had the United States Commission on Civil Rights here, 82 of our observers from across the state, a Democrat, Republican, Independent, old, young, able-bodied, disabled, you name it. It was supposed to be a public hearing. There were no cameras. It was done in secret in LA County. The bottom line is that the documentation we brought was so damning that the regional commissioner who oversaw that was so astounded that, number one, he said every state should have an election integrity observation organization like ours. And number two, he agreed with us that every citizen in the state, regardless of party affiliation, is having their civil right violated, the right to a fair and honest election, so that we can choose those who will govern. And we now contend that we've lost the ability to do that with the ballot harvesting of 2018.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that ballot harvesting is a bad idea, I think.
Very bad. Very bad. But it was definitely not something we wanted. That's for sure.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, nobody I don't think anyone wanted it except those who knew how to manipulate it.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that we want to do, is we want to overturn that. We have several laws we believe are unconstitutional. The top two primary, which results in people having to vote for someone who does not represent them. The ballot harvesting. There's a list of laws that should be overturned or repealed.
Right. Well, I urge everybody listening to this to go to it's. Go ahead. Can you say your website again, Linda? Could you do that for us? EI?
Sure. It's www.eip-ca.com.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And you are a 501c3, and donations can be.
We are.
Please go ahead.
Tax deductible.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're very excited about that, to finally be a tax exempt nonprofit. And that is definitely helping us to raise some funds to
Excellent.
take these cases forward. We need to expand our data team now that we're going to be doing oversight of such a huge amount of data. But anyone who would like to donate, they can now write it off.
Awesome. And those donations can be made at your website?
They can. They can go right to our donation button, and they can either donate with a credit card through PayPal, or they can write a check and they can mail it to the office. And that's right on that same little button. When they click there, they can do either one.
Awesome. I wanted to make sure you got that in there. Very good.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you can think of that you'd like to add, Linda, to our conversation tonight?
I want to just encourage people not to give up. For so long, California has been the laughingstock. We've been called the land of fruit and nuts. But this year in 2018, the illegal voting that's taken place in California showed its ugly head in many other states. And they're now not laughing at us, but they're contacting us and asking us, what do we do? So once again, Californians are the point of the spear. We have trained 9,000 citizens in the state since 2012 for our very first election. We want to encourage people to get involved and to continue to help us to oversee and document. But we never feel like we're winning because the media doesn't tell us we're winning. But we have made a huge dent, and it's because of the gracious fight of the California citizens that have made the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. And I want to personally thank you so much for all you and everybody who works with EIPCA. You have my gratitude forever. Let me just say that. And it makes me excited. Maybe I definitely am going to look into doing some work on this as well. So, Linda, I think we're pretty much done for this evening. I want to thank you again for coming on. And anything else, John?
Well, I just kind of wanted to get her opinion. Some of our politicians are asking for a national holiday for Election Day. What are your thoughts on that? I think
that's a good question.
If everybody had a day off, I don't know that it would necessarily improve the turnout.
Well, it may not improve the turnout, but it would make it more difficult to manipulate the system. See, we have a 60-day election season, and that means that people who vote by mail, they are easily manipulated because people who vote by mail think that they fill out their ballot, they put it in the mail, it goes right to the registrar's office, they check the signature, and then they count it. And that's the furthest from the truth. It's actually processed by many hands, and one of the process is they take that ballot out of the protected envelope and they check it for smudges and a crinkle here, and they make sure it's going to go through the vote count. But we noticed a huge number of what's called remade ballots, and we're going to do an audit on that, because when they take your ballot out of that protected envelope, they can see how you voted. And if they want to make sure they can remake that ballot, they just have to crinkle it just a little bit. Or our observers documented machines that were not functioning properly during the signature match, and they were crushing the ballots. Our observers attempted to have the registrar take that machine out of service, and they refused to do it. They kept a broken machine there, which impacted the ballots, and they had to be remade. But if we went to one day, I strongly support that. Go to one day, forget all this early voting, make it so people can vote, or even do it on a Friday, take Friday off, and then do a Saturday, do it 2 days. So people can truly do a weekend and their company can't give them the day off. But this 60 days of voting is terrible, because 60 days of processing ballots is plenty of time to manipulate a lot of vote by mail ballots. Our recommendation: do not vote by mail. Go to the polls and vote in person.
Well, as I understand the law in California, employers have to allow you time off to vote. So
Right.
As far as a national holiday where everyone had the day off to vote, I don't think is necessary. But
The one-day vote idea.
I do think that only having you vote one day is the way it used to be. It's the way it ought to be now,
Right.
and it would be, easy
Right.
for us to control. The argument that some politicians nowadays are giving, that people just don't have the time to vote. Well, we don't have the time for jury duty, but they end up, we don't go into jail. We do what the judge says and show up for jury duty,
Yeah.
So
That's
with the state law
Well,
being that people are required to give employees time off to vote, I don't see, the need for a national holiday on the thing myself.
Well, it may not motivate those to vote who really don't care to vote, but it would eliminate the manipulation of the election, is what it would help do. The complexity of what we have now is why I absolutely believe our elections are, in fact, being manipulated. There's just 60 days to do it. Even if we only had 2 weeks, that would be better than the 60 days that we now have.
Right.
Yeah. That 60 days is.
But I do like your idea of moving maybe to a Friday, Saturday thing nationally, and getting away from the Tuesday. The Tuesday in the middle of the work week does make it hard for some to justify not being at work for that hour or 2 hours. Some of our lower income households can't afford the 2 hour loss in pay from both wage earners in the home.
Right.
Yeah.
And small businesses can't necessarily afford to give time off, or especially if it's paid time off. So there's lots of complications. But I remember when I first started voting, it was one day you went, you showed ID, and everyone voted with a paper ballot.
You
it
showed
was
your
counted and
ID?
processed, Yeah,
She doesn't want to get off the phone. She's just bringing up subjects. She got my mind
That's
going.
awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Go ahead. Please, Linda, go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway, there's so much we have to do, but one thing to watch is Congress is trying to push the California election laws on the whole country through H.R. 1, so keep your eye on that. We've written a request to testify before the committees, but if Congress can push that through, then every state in the union will be fighting with what we're fighting with. So
awesome.
This is where we'll send these alerts out if people are on. We'll let them know, call your Congress, even if doesn't matter what party they are, they need to hear from us in large voices because we are invisible most of the time. We're frustrated and invisible. Call, write letters, and we'll be sending alerts out to say, send your letters to the White House. Send your letters to whomever, but they need to hear from California. Don't do it.
So that's on HR 1? Okay, good. Good.
Very bad. Very bad for the country.
Okay. All right. So it's a no on HR 1 then,
do
right?
you know the name of that law, HR 1? What's the official name of the law?
Do you know what that name?
Yep. Let me see. We just had to send our letter. We're working again with some of our attorneys. We have several attorneys that we're now working with to try to push this to the national level. I'm just looking for that bill real quick, and I'll bring it up. Here we go.
And is that on your website as well? Then too,
we're going to put that on. We haven't put it up. We haven't put it up yet.
Okay.
But let me just see here.
Okay. I can
give it to you.
I'm sure you can find it.
It is called. If you go to ledgeinfo.com, anyone who'd actually like to read it, they can find it there. But it's in Congress. But it's called.
That was Ledge.
The bill to expand access to the ballot box. Let me see.
Ledgeinfo.
Oh, here it is.
Okay.
Ledge Info. But this is called HR 1. It's called For the People Act. And just like California, they named these bills the total opposite of what they are.
Yeah.
For the People
Doesn't
Act.
That sound
well,
nice?
This is not for the people. Now, this will make all elections go through the federal. So it's going to continue to solidify all power over our elections to the federal seats rather than local jurisdictions.
Wow.
Not good.
Very bad.
Boy, it does sound nice, though, doesn't it?
I mean, why would we have local elections officials that were elected if we wanted the feds in everything?
Good.
Well, it's actually unconstitutional to do it, and so this is going to be a serious fight. It's already a fight. They're having hearings in the various committees in Congress, but again, the citizens don't know what it is, so they're not hearing from us. So again, we're going to put something out on this.
Wow.
Hopefully this week we'll put something out to start to let people know to watch this bill and to get loud about it.
Yeah.
Loud meaning letters, calls, emails, pester, and demand them know.
Yeah. So we need a lot of people to hear about this. Have any of the has any of the media brought it up?
Oh no.
None of the media
seems to be under cover of darkness, as most things are that are not good for the people.
We need to.
So we have to shed the light on it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I am really glad we kept you on to hear that. This is really bad.
Yeah, there's always so much. That's the problem. They're overwhelming the system, and people are exhausted fighting back. But we just encourage people to just keep getting up. I mean, we all get tired of fighting back, but our republic is at risk here, and we just encourage people to take a break when you need to, and then keep getting up and fight back, push back, speak out, write, be loud, be visible.
Yes, very good advice. Excellent advice. Well, anything else, John?
No, I'm good. We might possibly want to have you back at a later date, but I think for this evening that we've covered quite a few things.
Very good. Yes. Thank you. Thanks again for coming on, Linda. You know that you're a busy person, and we just appreciate your time so much. And we really do need to get a lot of this information out to people. So hopefully with this podcast, we will touch base with a lot of people. So anyway, thanks again for being with us.
You're welcome, and it's my honor to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, yes. Our honor as well. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Have a good night.
Right.
You too.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
God bless.
All right. Bye-bye.
And so for our next meeting for Stanislaus Concerned Citizens, we will have on March 6th, the Jefferson Night. All you need to know about Jefferson and more. And by then, we should have an update on Mark and Cindy's Second Amendment lawsuit for and the CFR appeals. So on March 20th, we'll have Sheriff Jeff Dirksey coming to speak at 6:30. That will be both of these will be at the Grizzly Rock Cafe in Turlock. On April 3rd, Sam Paredes from Gun Owners of California at 6:30, and just come on out and see us. You're welcome to join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Linda for coming onto our show and taking time to speak with us. We do want to remind you, please pray for Alan. He's still out. Just keep him in your prayers. We know he would really appreciate it. And Alan, we miss you. If anybody is interested in sponsoring our show, you can head over to jeffersonlibertyradio.com or email us at sponsors@jeffersonlibertyradio.com. We'd also love to hear from you. You can email us at feedback@jeffersonlibertyradio.com or via our website, again, jeffersonlibertyradio.com. We'd love to hear your questions and comments. Don't forget to subscribe to us in iTunes or your podcast player of choice. Leave us a 5-star review in those places. We'd really appreciate it, and it actually does help our ratings. You can find us on the typical social media, Facebook, Twitter. You can also find our episodes on Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, and even some alternative media such as BitChute and Gab. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Jefferson Liberty Radio, and we'll catch you next time.